I spoke to Senator Rubio just moments ago. So much attention has been on Florida, and a lot of it has to do with your influence. You have been steadfast and unwavering and unflinching. You're not going to endorse anybody, but it's very clear that the candidates all would like to have your endorsement. You did, without an endorsement, come out and do a little pushback because of a spot that Newt Gingrich ran, and Mitt Romney had this to say the other night in the debate.
That's simply inexcusable. That's inexcusable. And actually, Senator Marco Rubio came to my defense and said that ad was inexcusable and inflammatory and inappropriate. Mr. Speaker, I'm not anti-immigrant. My father was born in Mexico. My wife's father was born in Wales. They came to this country. The idea that I'm anti-immigrant is repulsive.
Clearly, the issue of immigration is sensitive. It's volatile in Florida. What was offensive about the ad, and why did you feel like you needed to speak out about it?
Well, first of all, I have nothing but admiration for Speaker Gingrich. It was not about him. But that language of anti-immigrant is one that's being used against me. And here's what I'm troubled by. I'm troubled by the fact that, look, everybody agrees that illegal immigration is a big issue, and there are all kinds of different ideas about how to deal with it. What I'm troubled by, what I think is unfair, is for people to go around saying that unless you agree with their specific ideas about how to deal with illegal immigration, you are anti-immigrant. And I just think not only is that unfair, it's ridiculous. I think there's a lot of different ways to deal with illegal immigration, and I think we must deal with illegal immigration in a way that balances both our heritage as a nation of immigrants, but we're also a nation of laws. I mean, we can't be the only country in the world that doesn't have immigration laws and refuses to enforce them. And so, you know, I just think that people should not go around throwing terms like that loosely, and many on the left do. And when I heard that in the ad, I thought I should speak out and just say I didn't think that was fair.
Both Gingrich and Romney appeared at the Hispanic Leadership Network yesterday. Both had a good reception. You were there. Tell me, what is it that people in Florida of the Hispanic community are primarily looking for in a candidate, and which candidate resonated with those voters yesterday?
Right. Well, I wasn't there when they spoke, so I can't tell you about who resonated the most. I think they all did a good job in their presentation. Otherwise, we would have heard about it. I will tell you what they're looking for, and it's pretty clear-cut. They want to look for someone who is prepared to come in and know what they're doing. And that's not too much to ask when it comes to being the commander-in-chief of the most powerful military in the world, overseeing the largest, most powerful economy on the planet in the history of the world, the American economy. And so we're looking for someone that knows what they're doing, because the guy that's there now doesn't know what he's doing. And I think that's primarily what's on people's minds, is who can we turn to, who's going to provide the best opportunity to change, no pun intended, I suppose, and what's happening in Washington, D.C. and in the White House. And that's why I've always been a proponent of Florida being earlier in the primary cycle, because this is a state where all these major issues that confront our country are major issues here. And I think Florida is going to give us a pretty clear indication of which direction the Republican Party is headed.
You know, there's always been this talk about the Hispanic community and how important it is, as if the only question in that community is immigration. But my observation is that that's certainly not the only issue that matters. And in fact, one of the things that's been impressive to me is that the Hispanic community largely is exceptionally pro-life. They are unwavering in their commitment to marriage and to strong families and to a strong work ethic. How do Republican candidates need to better address those issues? Because it does touch a nerve in that community.
Immigration is not the #1 issue on the minds of Americans of Hispanic descent. There are a lot of other issues. The #1 is the economy, the lack of jobs. You know, no community in this country has a stronger desire to leave their children better off for themselves than Americans of Hispanic descent. But I will say that it's hard to get onto all of those issues you described, whether it's social conservatism, the importance of the family, the importance of life. It's hard to get to those issues without confronting the immigration issue, because on immigration, you're not just talking about statistics or theory. You're talking about people that they love, their grandmother, their mother, their next-door neighbor, sometimes their husbands or their children. So that's why I think it's so important that the Republican Party become the pro-legal immigration party. We support legal immigration, and I think if we can do that, then I think we win on all these other issues, because the American free enterprise system is about upward mobility, it's about economic empowerment, and there's no community in America that desires that more than Americans of Hispanic descent.
Coming up, I asked Senator Rubio to respond to the president's class warfare rhetoric. President Obama this week in the State of the Union, as he has in previous months, made again references to the fact that there's this small group of people who have done well, and they're doing better than the vast numbers who aren't doing so well. I want you to listen to just a little clip from a couple of his speeches. Let's talk about then, after that, the president's approach.
We can either settle for a country where a shrinking number of people do really well, while a growing number of Americans barely get by. If asking a billionaire to pay the same rate as a plumber or a teacher makes me a warrior for the middle class, I wear that charge as a badge of honor. The only class warfare I've seen is the battle that's been waged against middle-class folks in this country for a decade now.
Senator, your own story has been one that has always inspired me, and I think everyone who hears it. You have come from a working-class background and family and have risen through the ranks to become a United States Senator. I want to ask you, from your perspective, when you hear talk like this, are you inspired by the president? Are you offended that he tends to want to separate people in the middle class from people who have moved beyond and succeeded?
Most presidents at this stage would be bragging about their accomplishments and telling people give them 4 more years because what they've done the last 4 years. He's not going to be able to do that. This president, and he has no excuses either. He's failed on every count, and he had the control of Congress 2 of his first 3 years in Washington, D.C. So he's going to have to do something else, and what he's decided, he's going to pit Americans against each other. He's going to put us against each other in the hopes of getting to the magical 50 plus 1% that'll help him win the election in certain states. And what he's trying to tell people is that the only way to help you in your job is to raise your boss's taxes. That the reason why you're doing worse off this year is because someone else is doing too well. That the only way you can climb the economic ladder is for someone else to be pulled down. That's never who we've been as a nation. That's what other countries do. And it's never worked over there. That's why people come here. So I think this president's taking us down a very discouraging road, and that's why, as much as anything else, this election in November is so critical.
The president has talked about the need to raise taxes. He's never really settled on a figure. How much do we need to raise?
Right.
What is the percentage? How high does it need to be in order to be fair? Let's talk about that, because you're going to be faced in the United States Senate with questions about should we raise taxes. Are the rich Americans paying their fair share? If they are, great. If they're not, how much should they be paying?
And I've always felt that that's the wrong way to examine it. And you have 2 choices. You can either create new taxes, or you can work on creating new taxpayers. In essence, more people that are working, more people paying taxes, the people that are working making more money, which means they'll pay more on hopefully what would be a flat tax rate. That's what I think we should be aiming at. Instead, what the president's saying is, let's raise taxes on people that create middle-class jobs. Let's raise taxes on investment income. Why would we discourage people from investing in America's economy? You know, without access to money, you can't start a business and you can't grow a business. And that's what creates middle-class jobs. It goes back to a kind of a failed ideology that the president has.
You've chosen not to endorse in the race, although every single candidate has been begging and hoping for your endorsement. What was the reason that you've decided to hold off an endorsement, particularly in Florida, where it might have made a big difference in the outcome of the race?
Well, first of all, because you didn't run, so that's but beyond.
Nice answer.
But beyond that. No, beyond that, I mean, I had known Speaker Gingrich for a number of years. He's been helpful to me. Governor Romney came to Florida and campaigned for me. I have respect for Senator Santorum, and you know, I'll serve with Ron Paul's son in the Senate. So I just felt like, let's just give the people of Florida a choice. You can't tell people who to vote for president, certainly not in this state. I wanted Florida to play a major role. I didn't want anyone to think that I was getting involved because an early primary somehow benefited one candidate over another. There were a bunch of reasons. I think it was the right choice, and I think Floridians are going to give us a pretty clear indication here on Tuesday of who the next nominee is going to be.
So the early voting in Florida, it's expected that almost half the voters will vote early. Did you vote early, Senator, or are you going to vote on Election Day?
I did.
Me too.
I actually voted today, and so did my wife, yeah.
See, I'm
That's
not
right,
even
you're a Florida voter.
That's right. I'm not even going to ask you who you voted for. Aren't you grateful that I'm not going to do that to you?
Well, that'd be just like an endorsement. So we'll see on Tuesday.
Senator, great to have you here. It's always a pleasure. Thanks for what you do.
Thank you so much for having me.